The opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it is human connection. British author and journalist Johann Hari asserts that the true longing and fulfillment of mankind lies in human connection. Similar to the way an addict may yearn for a vice even against their conscious will, people are created with an innate yearning for interaction with others. Author Annie Dillard explores this idea in her work For the Time Being, as a prominent component in fulfilling life's purpose. Dillard utilizes case-specific interactions and encounters to emphasize the significant role of human interaction in the purpose of life. Dillard establishes the relatable concept of individuality of man while recognizing intrinsically shared values that allow us to influence and impact one another despite cultural barriers. Due to the controversial, arguable nature of the prominent topics and issues Dillard addresses in her book, she makes an effort to draw readers in by establishing relatability. Through encounters, Dillard describes a variety of interactions from various times in her life, all of which emphasize the differences in individuality of people. Rather than describing regular everyday encounters, Annie Dillard inserts a variety of cross-cultural interactions in varying countries and locations in order to grow the universal nature of her declared ideas. Through broadening the scope of her writing, Dillard therefore decreases the cookie-cutter structure of her ideologies, and in turn increases her impact. Annie Dillard includes encounters with many different kinds of people to broaden the scope of relatability of her writing and concepts, as well as to portray the innate nature of general human connection without specification to certain kinds of characters. This is exemplified through her encounter with the baby on the motorcycle. Dillard's maturity contrasts the baby's youth and destroys any socially accepted age barriers. Dillard also continually emphasizes language barriers in her interactions. This strengthens the concept that even when communication by verbal means seems utterly impossible, connection is not. Throughout her many encounters, Dillard comes face to face with jargon limitations. This incorporates readers of all cultures and removes possible rejection of her ideas due to ethnic difference. Similarly, in Chapter 4, Dillard describes a fertile, water-filled landscape oppositely surrounded by dry, desolate land. On page 111, she says, "A bent cyclone fence prevented my climbing to see the parched land all around, and to see the many dry mountains to the west of the Mediterranean." This section, although not specifically centered on a human interaction, represents the different ways in which people live. By likening the lavish wealth of the upper percentile, separated and often ignorant of the inverse lifestyles and conditions of the underprivileged that make up the vast majority of Earth's population. Including this analogy broadens the application of her ideas by breaking down any societal socioeconomic barriers. At the end of this section, Dillard rhetorically asks, "Who are we people?" A question without answer due to the indefinite uniqueness of every individual. In Chapter 5, Dillard describes her connection with a stout Greek woman as she assists her from a confining chair. Throughout the process, the woman repeats an apology, which Dillard assumes to be her only English. This encounter portrays how humans often apologize for their differences, and therefore eases any hesitation between author and unique reader. The sweet connection that takes place between the two women communicates a safe acceptance of ideas between reader and Dillard. Whether Dillard encounters an Israeli woodcutter, a passing Dutch, an impersonating airport porter, or a baby on a motorcycle, every interaction uniquely reveals the possibility and beauty of unlikely fellowship. Even as she identifies with a multitude of unique individuals in the world, Dillard maintains through the encounter section that humankind truly does operate under a shared intrinsic nature and values. To do so, she uses two notable motifs. First of all, cigarettes are a common theme in most of the encounter sections. In several instances, such as her meeting with the Elvis impersonator, interactions with Joseph the Palestinian, and with the shopkeeper in Cana, cigarettes are repetitively used as symbolism for the start of a human connection. Interestingly, these objects have a negative connotation of addiction and consequential bad health. By using them to signal important interactions, Dillard is contemplating the shared tendencies of humans. Despite cultural and personal differences, we often find ourselves addicted to the same things. Included in these addictive habits is also our desire for human connection. We use these shared tendencies to connect with each other, fulfilling our insatiable need to bond by crossing language, cultural, and personal barriers. To further emphasize the idea that we share a common nature as humans, Dillard also uses the motif of the color blue. This color symbolizes trust, peace, and stability, and is generally associated with two of the largest aspects of our Earth, the sky and the sea. As two vastly important and large portions of our world, the blueness of the sky and sea can, in this context, be seen as something that connects the world and those who live in it. Now, Dillard mentions this color several times, as through the blue crab in the desert and the blue vest of the shop owner, all to the purpose of showing how we truly do all live under the same sky and have similar natures. The blue crab incident in Chapter 4, for example, exemplifies the natural human need to be heard. Something in the image of a bright blue crab in the middle of a desert speaks to Dillard, bringing her to the point of sharing with a complete stranger from a completely different culture. She needed to be heard just like all humans do. Ultimately, Dillard's point in emphasizing the intrinsic values of human nature is said best in the words of the Elvis impersonator, who sings about needing to be loved tender and sweet. The allusion to a world-renowned and thoroughly loved singer across nations is significant because these words are applicable to all human beings. Dillard recognizes that we as humans share basic tendencies, such as addiction or the need to be heard and the need to be loved. These shared values are what lead us to moments of priceless human connection.
Moreover, Annie Dillard implements scenarios of human interactions throughout encounters to illustrate the inevitable influence our actions and encounterments have on each other. In Chapter 5, Dillard recalls her synergy with the baby on the back of a motorcycle. The baby hands Dillard a key ring as the baby's guardian anxiously watches in the distance. Here, Dillard juxtaposes the baby and the distressed adult to display the difference between those who have been exposed to the world and those who have not. Typically, baby symbolizes the purity and vulnerability and have a lack of exposure to the world around them. In effect, this is why the baby obliviously hands Dillard, a stranger, the key ring, unlike the baby's guardian, who immediately grew worried as he saw a stranger near his baby. Due to past encounters or interactions, the adult has been manipulated to think danger. Dillard then interrupts the last sentence of the passage with a parenthesis to further emphasize human influence by revealing that the baby began to doubt life's very fundaments. After, Dillard stretches the interval before giving back the key, page 136. The human action being the extended holding of the key ring by Dillard and the influence being the baby's loss of trust in strangers. Dillard also utilizes references to religion to show the impact of human action. Religion exists because many are influenced or manipulated to believe in a certain way from a very young age. On page 190, 3 ex-fishermen say they saw light transfuse Jesus and saw Moses and Elijah talk to him. This can suggest that religion is just a fisherman tale since fishermen are known to lie and exaggerate, meaning that we could possibly be blindly following religion. However, despite the unknown veracity, human influence overpowers, causing us to believe in a religion. Dillard also purposely uses the number 3 to strengthen the toll of human influence. Historically, the number 3 was the first number given the meaning all, and known for having great power. This proposes that human influence overcomes all aspects of life. In conclusion, Annie Dillard scrutinizes the grand impact of human interactions amongst mankind due to the longing of human connection, creating a sense of relatability that can be applied to all. Thank you. Thank you very much.